friendship will be celebrated around the world as it has been.
Shit! You ain't gonna do shit, you fucking punk ass bitch!
Operating a drug trafficking ring and human smuggling, they were arrested almost 2 years ago in an undercover operation.
4:19 a.m. Minnesota. A university campus rests in darkness. Dormitory windows remain unlit. Streets stand empty. The environment reflects routine predictability and order. What matters now lies inside the seized material. The initial arrests have removed central coordination. The records have revealed scale. Public attention now threatens to distort understanding of both. The investigation moves carefully, aware that noise can shield activity as effectively as silence. The story no longer belongs solely to controlled spaces before dawn. It now unfolds under scrutiny, shaped by perception as much as by evidence. And as the focus drifts between competing narratives, one concern remains unresolved. The network uncovered so far reflects preparation, endurance, and expansion. Its design favors patience. Its methods rely on blending into ordinary life. What remains unseen may depend on how long attention stays fixed on the surface rather than the structure beneath it. The operation continues forward, aware that exposure alone rarely brings closure. What it brings instead is a narrowing window to reach what still moves quietly beyond view. In the days following the public confrontation, the operation does not slow, it reorganizes. Movement within the network becomes selective. Some routes pause, others resume with altered timing. Devices reappear briefly, then vanish again. The pattern reflects adjustment rather than retreat. The records recovered from the campus and the industrial site continued to expand the picture. Financial trails link shell entities across state lines. Small transfers repeat with consistency, forming larger totals over time. The structure favors persistence. The flow avoids concentration. Devices begin to align. Messages reference shipments without naming substances. Images show vacuum-sealed packages associated with long-distance transport. Files track quantities using symbols that repeat across multiple phones. Travel histories add another dimension. Several names appearing in the records align with repeated crossings in and out of the country. The timing of those movements corresponds with shipment schedules. The overlap suggests coordination beyond local distribution, pointing toward sourcing channels that extend further than the immediate map. The network reveals depth through restraint. At least 9 individuals listed in the notebooks maintain legitimate employment within community spaces, grocery stores, service centers, campus facilities. Their roles place them in locations designed to appear routine. Transfers occur in parking lots, laundromats, and transitional spaces where presence attracts little attention. The simplicity of the method protects it. One recovered message clarifies the strategy without emphasis. A brief note advises keeping activity near places considered neutral. The wording reflects confidence in the cover provided by familiarity. The university district fits that design. As enforcement efforts expand, additional warrants are prepared. Jurisdictions coordinate quietly. The investigation moves laterally, following routes rather than names. Each connection reveals another segment, another layer designed to absorb disruption. The quarry site no longer stands as the center of attention. It becomes a reference point. The data points outward. The structure revealed there reflects a model replicated elsewhere, a hub surrounded by rotating access points, compartmentalized roles, limited exposure. The design favors longevity over speed. The arrests have altered the rhythm, yet the underlying framework remains present. As attention shifts between public narrative and investigative momentum, the evidence continues to accumulate without commentary. Devices hold maps that extend beyond current boundaries. Ledgers reference future movement. Schedules suggest preparation rather than conclusion. The operation reaches a threshold. The material recovered answers many questions about how the network functioned. It leaves others unresolved. The origin of certain financial channels remains unclear. Several coordinators identified in the data remain unlocated. Routes beyond the immediate region continue to surface. The case expands by design. What began before dawn on a quiet campus now touches multiple states' industries and systems designed for ordinary use. The network has relied on silence, repetition, and trust in routine to operate without friction. That trust now carries consequence. The investigation stands at a point where exposure alone offers no resolution. The structure uncovered thrives in gaps between attention cycles. It adapts to scrutiny. It waits for focus to drift. As the final doors close on the quarry site, the evidence collected there reframes the entire sequence. Geolocation records trace repeated movement beyond the campus perimeter, converging toward an industrial zone outside Minneapolis. The same destination appears again and again across unrelated devices. Frequency replaces coincidence. This story was never limited to a campus or a warehouse. It reflects how organized activity can embed itself within familiar environments, moving quietly through systems meant to serve everyday life. The question that remains does not center on what has already been uncovered. It centers on scale. If a network of this size could operate within spaces designed to feel safe, structured, and unremarkable, how many similar structures continue moving beyond view? And how much of what surrounds us every day functions exactly as intended until it does not? After the last warrants are executed, the landscape changes again. The network grows quieter, activity thins without disappearing, routes that once repeated with precision begin to stagger, timing stretches, transfers occur less frequently, yet the structure remains intact enough to suggest continuity. Silence replaces speed. Records recovered during the operation continue to reveal patterns even as movement slows. Financial traces show funds parked rather than withdrawn. Shell entities remain registered. Digital wallets hold balances untouched. The system waits. Travel data extends the timeline further back than initially expected. Several figures linked to the network appear repeatedly across years, not months. Their movement aligns with long cycles rather than short bursts. The behavior suggests a model built for duration. The university district fades from the center of attention. Financial records reinforce the picture. Deposits move through informal channels in structured amounts. Over 6 months, the total exceeds $400,000. The cadence reflects continuity. The structure reflects intention. Its role becomes clearer in retrospect. The campus offered rhythm. Academic calendars created predictable flow. Housing turnover blurred familiarity. The environment allowed repeated access without permanence. What appeared incidental now reads as deliberate. The quarry site follows a similar logic. Its isolation discouraged curiosity, its decay absorbed noise, its distance from routine patrols created space. The site functioned as coordination rather than destination preparation rather than endpoint. The network relied on environments designed to appear ordinary. As enforcement pressure expands outward, remaining participants shift further into the background. Communication becomes brief, devices rotate faster, names referenced in earlier records stop appearing. The structure contracts without collapsing. The design favors survival. Additional links surface across parallel investigations in other states. Patterns align without direct contact, similar methods, similar compartmentalization, similar use of familiar spaces. The resemblance suggests replication rather than coincidence. The case now intersects with broader questions. The evidence shows how activity moved quietly through systems built for trust. Housing, logistics, education, community spaces, each provided cover by virtue of normalcy, each reduced scrutiny through routine. The operation exposes method as much as crime. One presence emerges repeatedly across messages, routes, and financial trails. Coordination appears without direct involvement in handoffs. Instructions arrive without detail. Timing and quantities remain consistent. Public attention continues to fluctuate. Headlines shift. The narrative narrows to individual moments rather than sustained structure. The underlying framework benefits from distraction. The investigation continues without announcement. New data arrives slowly, one connection at a time. Each link adds depth without closure. The material answers how the network operated. It leaves unresolved how many similar systems exist beyond the current map. The case reaches a pause rather than an end. What began before dawn on a quiet campus has unfolded into a layered examination of how organized activity embeds itself within everyday life. The arrests disrupted coordination, the records exposed design, the remaining silence suggests patience. The final assessment resists conclusion. The network uncovered here operated through familiarity rather than force, through routine rather than spectacle. It relied on the assumption that ordinary spaces remain unexamined. That assumption no longer holds. Yet the question remains unresolved. If this structure thrived by blending into places meant to feel safe, predictable, and unremarkable, how many others operate the same way, unseen, unremarked, waiting for the next moment when attention shifts elsewhere? The individual at the center of these connections is identified as Abdurrahman Khalif Noor, age 42. Prior associations link him to interstate routes. Financial activity surrounding his name exceeds any documented income. His communications align movement across multiple actors without visible exposure. The operation closes one chapter. What follows depends on what still moves quietly beneath the surface and how long it remains unnoticed. The campus locations reveal their role. They function as access points. Couriers move small quantities to avoid detection. Routes rotate. Devices cycle. The system favors repetition and silence. By the end of the first day, the shape of the operation becomes clearer. The early morning arrests expose entry rather than conclusion. The network extends beyond the university streets, operating through corridors already established. Movement begins without sound. The question shifts. Attention moves away from those detained and toward what continues beyond the campus boundary, toward the industrial site appearing across devices, toward the structure coordinating movement without visibility. As the city fully wakes, the operation uncovered before dawn remains unfinished. Something larger continues moving quietly, embedded within ordinary spaces, advancing through routine rather than force. And the scale of what lies ahead has yet to surface. As the morning advances, the focus moves away from the campus entrances and toward what connects them. The seized devices begin to form a single picture. Messages align across different phones. Timestamps cluster within narrow windows. Locations repeat with subtle variations. What appears scattered at first settles into structure through consistency. Movement patterns point outward from the university district. Routes extend beyond residential streets and converge toward an industrial corridor outside Minneapolis. The destination appears under different labels, referenced indirectly yet returned to with regularity. Frequency replaces coincidence. The site sits on the edge of routine awareness. Abandoned buildings, limited traffic, irregular activity after midnight. Its outward decay conceals purpose. Its isolation absorbs movement without drawing attention. Records recovered from campus locations reinforce the same direction. Financial entries reflect steady flow rather than accumulation. Deposits arrive through informal channels broken into predictable amounts. Over time, the total grows beyond $400,000. The rhythm reflects continuity. The design reflects planning. The operation reveals hierarchy through repetition. Unmarked vehicles slow near residential buildings. Doors open briefly, figures step out and separate with precision. Nothing about the scene draws attention. Nothing signals urgency. The surroundings remain familiar, yet the meaning of the place has shifted. Some individuals appear briefly linked only to transport. Their movement remains narrow and short-lived. Others maintain contact without handling physical transfers. A smaller presence coordinates timing quantities and routes across multiple locations. At the center of this alignment stands Abdurrahman Khalif Noor. His name appears across devices without emphasis. Instructions remain concise. Quantities are coded. Locations are referenced indirectly. His role emerges through connection rather than visibility. Financial activity surrounding his accounts exceeds any recorded income, moving steadily through channels designed to endure. The campus arrests expose only one layer. The system favors compartmentalization. Each participant holds limited knowledge. Routes rotate, devices cycle, locations shift incrementally. The structure absorbs loss without collapse. Attention turns fully toward the industrial site. Unmarked vehicles approach its perimeter during pre-dawn hours. The surrounding area remains silent. The buildings show no external signs of activity. Inside, heat signatures reveal presence across multiple sections. Movement appears controlled rather than chaotic. Entry unfolds with precision. Inside, the environment reframes the case. Containers hold narcotics consistent with heroin and fentanyl processing. Equipment indicates preparation rather than storage. Cash appears bundled in standardized amounts. Firearms rest within immediate reach. The space functions as a hub. For months, patterns have accumulated beneath the surface of this district. Short visits after midnight, repeated paths between the same addresses, devices appearing briefly on networks then disappearing, transactions recorded in ordinary language logged as supplies or drops. Each element appears unremarkable on its own. Together, they form alignment. Ledgers recovered on-site trace distribution routes across 3 states. Paths run through residential zones, highway exits, and transfer points selected for their familiarity. The routes mirror those appearing in the digital records. Devices found near Noor provide the clearest view of the structure. Messages connect campus locations to transport corridors and safe houses. Timing aligns across actors who never appear in the same place. The arrest proceeds without disruption. With Noor in custody, the operation shifts again. Devices reveal additional names beyond those already detained. Several contacts cease communication within hours. Routes pause. Devices go dark. The response suggests awareness rather than disorder. The system adjusts. By the close of the second day, the picture sharpens. The campus serves as cover. The industrial site operates as coordination and preparation. The network extends further through channels already in place. The early morning arrests no longer define the case. They mark its exposure. What remains active now lies beyond the initial locations, moving through routines that appear ordinary, embedded within spaces designed to feel safe and unremarkable. The operation continues to unfold layer by layer, revealing a structure built to persist quietly beneath the surface. The campus provides cover by design: high density, constant turnover, shared housing. Movement blends easily into daily life. The environment absorbs activity without resistance. And as the focus widens, one reality becomes clear. The activity uncovered before dawn represents only the visible edge of something far larger already in motion. With the physical location secured, the story shifts from places to traces. Phones, tablets, and storage devices recovered from the campus and the industrial site begin to align into a continuous record. Messages link across platforms. Timestamps cluster within narrow windows. Files created months apart reference the same destinations, the same quantities, the same coded language. The repetition removes ambiguity. Communications describe movement rather than conversation. Neutral terms appear again and again, standing in for narcotics, money, and timing. Pages, stones, bars. The language avoids attention. The meaning remains consistent. Images deepen the picture. Vacuum-sealed packages appear across multiple devices, photographed in different rooms at different times. Containers remain identical. Labels are absent. The packaging matches methods associated with long-distance transport. Financial records expand the scope. A hidden drive recovered from the industrial site documents cash movement across several years. Transfers arrive in controlled amounts through informal channels. The flow passes through Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Illinois before disappearing into offshore digital wallets. The total exceeds $3.8 million. Exceeds 3. The rhythm favors endurance. A digital map reveals distribution points spread across 3 states. Each marker carries dates, initials, and quantities. Several match individuals detained during the campus operation. Others align with subjects already known in unrelated cases. The separate investigations converge into one structure. As the hour approaches dawn, the operation unfolds. Handwritten notebooks add scale. More than 100 names appear, each paired with small payments and brief instructions. The roles vary, the responsibility remains narrow. Some move packages, others deliver money. A smaller group maintains access to secondary locations. The system divides knowledge to protect itself. Shipping records connect the network to broader routes. Packages move through major logistics hubs disguised as medical or consumer supplies. Several entries match seizures previously recorded in other jurisdictions. At the time, those cases appeared isolated. Now they align. One folder stands apart. A schedule labeled for future movement outlines shipments planned within days. One entry references chemical precursors sourced from overseas suppliers already flagged in federal intelligence. The quantity suggests capacity for large-scale preparation. The timeline compresses. Shortly after the arrest at the industrial site, communication patterns change. Several contacts cease activity. Devices power down. Routes pause. The response reflects awareness rather than collapse. The structure absorbs disruption. By the third day, the shape of the enterprise becomes unmistakable. Leadership operates through coordination rather than presence. Couriers rotate frequently. Locations shift incrementally. The system relies on routine rather than force. The industrial site functions as a hub. The campus serves as cover. Distribution extends outward through channels already established. Teams enter locations already tied to unresolved activity. Entry follows sequence. Evidence is collected quietly. Inside several units, multiple phones appear in single rooms. Altered identification documents surface. Cash emerges from concealed spaces built into walls and ventilation panels. The operation uncovered before dawn now appears as one segment of a longer sequence. As records continue to surface, attention turns toward what lies beyond the immediate network. Names appear linked to travel histories that extend outside the region. Financial trails hint at connections beyond state lines. The structure reveals preparation for expansion rather than retreat. The question evolves. It no longer centers on how the network operated within Minnesota. It shifts toward how long it has functioned without detection and how far its reach extends beyond the current map. The evidence does not suggest improvisation. It reflects design. As the volume of recovered material grows, one understanding settles across the investigation. The arrests disrupted movement, the records exposed structure, the full scope remains incomplete. And while one layer has surfaced, others continue to exist beyond immediate view, embedded within ordinary systems waiting for attention to drift elsewhere. The story moves forward with momentum already built. What comes next depends on how many additional layers the evidence is prepared to reveal. As the scope of the operation widens, the investigation moves beyond physical sites and digital records into public view. The locations reveal consistency rather than chaos. The arrests connected to the campus and the industrial corridor begin to circulate through media channels. Attention gathers quickly, drawn by the setting rather than the substance. A university district, a quiet Midwestern city, familiar ground now linked to narcotics, weapons, and large-scale coordination. The exposure changes the environment. Community leaders seek clarity. University officials request explanations. Questions rise before conclusions form. The operation, once confined to controlled movement before dawn, now exists in open discussion. At the center of that shift stands a public claim. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar states that a close relative has been stopped and questioned by immigration authorities. She describes repeated encounters across multiple locations. The account frames the activity as targeted and persistent. The timing places the claim alongside the unfolding enforcement operation. The statement introduces a new layer to the story. Shortly afterward, federal immigration officials respond publicly. The agency states that no internal records document such an encounter. No reports, no logs, no recorded interaction matching the description. The response carries an unusual level of directness. Two narratives emerge simultaneously. One centers on perceived targeting and community impact. The other points to the evidence already uncovered: narcotics preparation, interstate distribution routes, firearms, and financial structures spanning years. The divide widens quickly. By sunrise, 14 individuals are in custody. The campus returns to stillness. Students remain unaware of the scale moving beneath the surface only hours earlier. Supporters emphasize fear and disruption within immigrant communities. Critics focus on the scale of the operation, now visible through seized material. Both narratives expand faster than the underlying facts. Media coverage amplifies the contrast. Headlines move ahead of context. Images of agents near campus buildings circulate widely. The industrial site appears stripped of detail, reduced to a symbol rather than a system. The complexity of the network risks being overshadowed by the simplicity of the argument. Behind the public exchange, the operation continues unchanged. Additional names surface from recovered records. Financial trails extend into other states. Links appear between individuals already flagged in separate investigations. The enforcement effort moves forward without commentary. The tension between exposure and evidence grows. The public discussion focuses on motive and intent. The material recovered speaks in routes, quantities, and timelines. The two rarely align cleanly. As attention intensifies, the risk shifts. Visibility increases pressure on remaining participants within the network. Communication patterns tighten. Movement slows in some areas and accelerates in others. The structure adapts to observation. The operation enters a critical phase.